Chapter 27, Half-Baked Afternoon. Keisha invites Albert and me over to her house for a surprise. When I arrive, Albert is already there and Keisha is wearing a baker's hat and apron. "When do we eat?" Albert asks. "No free rides here, Albert. We have to cook first," Keisha says, putting the cookbook on the table. Albert seems disappointed. "You'll be able to eat, don't worry. And in the meantime, think of it as a science experiment. So 2 of your most favorite things, Albert." I'm pretty happy until she opens the cookbook and slides it over to me. "You're in charge." "Of what?" "The recipe. What do you think?" What, is she kidding? "And Albert, you can be in charge of rolling the dough. Going to try cookie dough today to see if the letters cook at a similar rate to cake." I'm freaking out over having to be in charge of the book. I'd rather be in charge of teaching cats how to play hockey. And my mind spins into that mind movie. When I start laughing, Keisha asks me what I'm doing. I have to shrug, push the picture of a goalie cat with skates and a mouthguard out of my head. "Allie?" Keisha pokes me. Yeah?" I ask what's the first thing. Albert appears next to me. "I'd rather do the book. You want to trade, Allie? You can roll out the dough." "Sure, Albert, if that's what you'd rather do, I don't mind switching." Albert begins reading the ingredients while I roll out the cookie dough. It's sticky and hard to roll. Keisha points to a package of flour. "Hey, sprinkle some of that on there." I manage to get the dough rolled out, but I have my doubts about all of this. I look at the alphabet cookie cutter she uses to make letters. "What do you want me to spell?" "Well, the letters are kind of big for cupcakes, so it can only be a 3-letter word. Spell whatever you want." I spell cow because it's the first word I can think of. Then we stand the letters up in the bottom of each cupcake mold and cover them with batter. Once Keisha slides the first batch into the oven, Albert asks, "Can I have some milk?" Keisha shrugs. "Sure," she says, taking a glass and filling it. Albert gulps it all down and asks, "May I possibly have some more? We switched to water at home, and I really miss milk." She hands him the gallon. "Help yourself." He sits with the milk and wraps his arm around it like he's protecting it. I laugh. "You're not getting that back, Keisha. I hope you know." "I have a question," Albert says after licking the milk from his lips. "If you spell cow inside a cupcake, can a vegetarian eat it?" "Boy," Keisha says, "you really take everything seriously, don't you?" "Hey," I turn to the oven, "is it supposed to be smoking like that?" Keisha pulls on a mitt. When she opens the door, smoke fills the kitchen. The cupcakes have oozed all over the top of the pans and fallen to the bottom of the oven. It's a mess. She groans, "Oh, man." "You should wait until the oven cools before you wipe it," Albert says. Keisha turns to him. "Yeah, thanks, Albert." "You're welcome," he says, and she rolls her eyes. She's disappointed the cookie dough will not work for letters. She and Albert figure out that the cookie dough expanded more than we thought it would, and that's why it made such a mess. But I just keep thinking that whenever I write something, it turns into a big mess, too. Chapter 28, Deal of a Lifetime. "Allie?" Mr. Daniels calls me to him as the class empties for lunch. "Yeah?" I ask, heading over. "So I've been thinking a lot about some of the answers you're giving during discussions. I love it when you share your opinions." "Thanks," I say, wondering why he really called me up here. "And I love your thoughts on Roy G. Biv. I overheard you ask Suki about her grandfather and comparing him to yours. Well, Allie, I'm really impressed by you." I shrug. What am I going to say? That he's crazy if he thinks I have anything for brains but a pail full of grasshoppers? "Really, you have some wonderful gifts, and your explanation of lonely and alone, that was clever." I glance up at him but stare at my shoes at the same time I answer. "That's just because I know about those words, alone and lonely, that's all. It was just an unfortunate stroke of luck." He laughs. "An unfortunate stroke of luck, huh?" I nod. "I see." "Yeah." "Allie, how many kids your age use phrases like unfortunate stroke of luck?" I feel like a fish in a wire cage rather than a tank. "Can I go to lunch now?" "Not just yet. I'm wondering, do you ever think one word but a different one comes out of your mouth?" Yeah, I guess." "Does reading sometimes give you headaches?" I nod, a little more nervous. "When you look at letters, do they ever seem to move?" I'm confused. "Of course they do." "They do?" He's wide-eyed. I nod, but I'm not sure if I should. He just looks at me for a while, and I think of how Keisha's cupcake feels when she watches them in the oven. "One more question," he says. I shift my weight. "Have you ever heard of a game called chess?" "Yeah," I say, happier. "It's from Alice in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass. My grandpa read it to me a gazillion times. It's the game that uses a checkerboard and the castle pieces, right? He brightens. Yeah, that's the one. Do you know how to play? I shake my head. Do you want to learn? I don't know. Well, he says, leaning forward and resting his elbows on his knees. I think you'd like chess. I could show you how to play after school, if you'd like. I have to stay after? He thinks for a second. Well, I was thinking of starting a chess club. I thought you could come first so I could teach you how to play, and if it works out well, we could invite other kids. It might be fun, something different. It's not like I was born yesterday. I know he's up to something. Teachers don't volunteer to stay after school to play games. I kind of want to say yes because Mr. Daniels is cool, and I don't think there's any reading stuff in chess. My grandpa would have liked to know that I could play chess. But it scares me. Well, I don't think so, but thanks anyway. He seems disappointed, and I turn to go. How about if I excused you from homework for learning how to play? I stopped like my feet are strapped to 1,000-pound blocks. Did he just say that? I turn around. What's the catch, I ask. No catch. If you stay after to learn chess for a few days, I'll excuse you from homework on the days that you stay. Am I going to have to write a paper or something? No papers, promise. I just come here and play a game and I get out of homework. No catch. Well, you can't tell anyone in class. I'll call your mom about it, though. He holds his hand out to shake. We have a deal then? Yeah, okay. I can't say no to that deal. Homework is only one step above death. I'm so happy about skipping some homework that I'll keep remembering it and being happy over and over. But what really gets me is that in order for Mr. Daniels to come up with this plan, he must have thought of me outside of school, when he didn't have to think about me. I bet other teachers have never let me sit in their head 1 second longer than they had to. Students in colonial times didn't use paper and pencils like you do now. The lady holds up a little chalkboard with a wooden frame. They used slates like these and wrote their answers down to show their teacher. She passes out slates, which are fun to write on. I draw a picture of Pierre with his beret, and I wish I had some green chalk to add a little smudge in honor of Albert. The woman takes out a pointed white hat. Now, this is something teachers used to use toward the end of Noah Webster's life. It's called a dunce cap. As a punishment for misbehavior, a child would have to wear it and stand in the corner facing the wall. I hear giggling. Shay is showing her slate to a bunch of other kids. There's a head wearing a dunce cap, and Allie is written underneath. What's the fuss about? The guide asks as she walks over. She turns to them. That isn't very nice. Erase it, please. I stand, willing the tears that come to my eyes to stop, knowing they will only give everyone more to make fun of. Are you all right? The guide asks me. Everyone is quiet now. They're all watching me. It's worse than laughing, so I run out. Out of the room and out of the museum. A woman calls to me, but I keep going. Out the door and around the back, across the lawn of a beautiful light greenhouse. I find a swing set which reminds me of my grandpa and how we spent hours at the park. I try to think about what he'd say now, and I'm sad that it's hard for me to remember his voice exactly. My hands slide down the chains as I sit on the seat thinking of when I was little. When my world was in such a heavy place. I used to love to swing as high as I could, leaning back, reaching for a bright blue sky with my feet, and it made me feel like I could do anything, reach anything. I lean my cheek against the cool chain, feeling like I can't reach anything anymore. And then the tears come. And then, in front of me, there are feet, the shoes that belong to Mr. Daniels. He stands for a while without saying anything until he finally says my name. All I can do is respond with a sniff. Can you tell me what happened in there? I don't know what to say. Such a small question with such a giant answer. Please just leave me alone. He takes a couple of steps away and stays quiet for a bit. Then he says, my brother and I used to love to write in the sand on the beach. My family would go to Maine. I don't answer him. Then he picks up a stick and writes something in the dirt under the swing next to me. More words. Why can't I ever get away from words? He turns to me and I stare at his knees. Allie, holding out the stick, do you want to write something? I shake my head. I think of flying on swings through bright blue skies and away from the words like dumb and freak and loser. He squats down in front of me. I'm sorry about whatever it is that upsets you. Let me help. I take a deep breath, and when I let it all out, the words come with it. Nobody's ever going to be able to help me, not ever. They all said I should have a dunce cap, and they're right. That's a thing. They're right. Oh my. Allie, you actually believe that, don't you? I can hear that it's a shock to him. I finally look up at him. Why wouldn't I? Because you are most certainly not dumb, Allie. You're just saying that. No, I'm not. For one, you aren't amazing with those bus driver math problems. You're one of the kids who actually gets the harder ones correct. I look up into his face with the bright sun behind him and blurt out, But how come I can't read? It's the first time I've ever asked the question out loud, and I guess because I'm so desperate for an answer. Aw, Allie, he says, this thing that makes school so hard for you, I think you may have something called dyslexia, and it means that although it's hard for you to read, it doesn't mean you're dumb. He laughs a little. In fact, you, Allie Nickerson, are far from it. Your brain just figures things out differently than other people. I'm different. He's got that right. But no way am I smart like he says. Don't understand. Yeah, Allie, I think you do. I think I do. Then he leans in. And you know what? You're brave. I want to be brave, but I'm not. Coming to school every day, knowing that you're what you're in for, knowing school will be hard and that other kids are going to razz you, and you come in every day and decide that you're going to try again. I stay quiet, just thinking about what he said, hoping he knows what he's talking about. You know something else? In ways, you're a lot smarter than other kids. You can also do things they can't. For one, you're an amazing artist. Those drawings of yours, wow, Allie, you've got talent there. What do you think about? I think it's like saying, I'm sorry you're going to die, but at least people are going to bring you flowers. He laughs really hard. See that? Seriously, Allie, only smart people say things like that. His voice drops. It's going to be okay, kiddo. I've never hoped for something so much as this. You and I are going to figure this out together. As a matter of fact, I already spoke to Mrs. Silver and Miss Kessler, the reading consultant at school. I was already planning to call your mom and talk to you tomorrow. We're going to give you some tests. I deflate. Oh, no, please no tests. Not the tests you're used to. You'll see. These are more like puzzles and games and tests, but the results will help us, help you. I feel like I can look up for the first time. You are smart, Allie, and you are going to learn how to read. A chill runs through my whole body. I don't have any choice but to believe him because I can't go another day thinking things will be like this forever. I wipe the tears from my face with the back of my hand. He stands up and we start walking back. Mr. Daniels looks up at the bright blue sky and says, Now don't be so hard on yourself, okay? You know, a wise person once said, everyone is smart in different ways. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it was stupid. I think hard about that. Could it be that simple? A mind movie flickers in my brain of an angry fish at the bottom of a tree banging on the trunk with its fins and complaining it can't climb. I think of a turtle making a sandwich, a snake playing the violin, an elephant knitting, penguins playing basketball, an eagle scuba diving. But mostly I hope with every tiny bit of myself that Mr. Daniels is right about all of this. Chapter 29, Fish in a Tree. Albert, Keisha, and I get off the bus for our class trip to the Noah Webster house. With no written work today, I'm thinking it will be a silver dollar day. Albert starts collecting acorns from the ground and filling his pockets. I'm tempted to ask why, but I'm afraid the answer will take an hour. Oliver picks up acorns and whips them at the trees. Max joins in. Max hits every tree every time. Oliver, not so much. Mr. Daniels walks over and says something to make them stop. I pick up an acorn too, and it reminds me of a little Frenchman with a pointed chin, perfectly shaped head, and a little beret. I name him Pierre, and I stick him in my pocket. I decide that I'll do a drawing of him later, maybe dancing with a lady at the Eiffel Tower. My grandpa always says he was going to take me to see it. Albert's pockets are bulging by the time we line up to go inside. She's rolling her eyes at him and laughing. When Mr. Daniels looks in her direction, she stops like she has an on-off switch. When he looks away, she laughs at Albert again. Don't laugh at him, I say. Fine, she says. I'll laugh at you. I don't care if you laugh at me. Albert just stands there looking a little lost. Albert, I whisper, why don't you tell them to go jump in a lake, or at least leave you alone? Albert. Keisha talks to him in her you better listen to me voice. Hunched over and silent is no way to meet the world. Albert bends over, picking up more acorns. He looks up at us. It isn't logical, he says. It will only let them know it bothers me. So it does bother you? I ask. He stands up straight. Well, no one likes to be insulted, but let's just say that my worry about Shay is a drop of water in the ocean compared to my other worry right now. What's that? I ask. These acorns, he said, holding one up. This green coloring on the side looks like moss, but I'm concerned that it's actually a fungus. If this is the case, all of these trees may be in danger. I've collected samples and will do further research. I lean in and look at the acorn. I like how Albert cares and is able to see things that other people wouldn't, but I wish Albert would care about himself as much as the scientific world. Mr. Daniels puts us into groups. I pray that I end up in his group or with Keisha and Albert. I get part of my wish and I'm in a group with Albert. Mr. Daniels is with a bunch of boys, including Oliver and Max. We get the drill about behaving and things being old and how we're not supposed to touch them. We break into our groups and head upstairs into a bedroom. So, our guide says, straightening her bonnet, does anyone know where the term sleep tight came from? Albert raises his hand and she calls on him with a smile. Albert points to the underside of the mattress. Mattresses were held up with ropes so they were off the floor and away from the bugs. When the mattresses would sag, they'd tighten the ropes and make the bed more comfortable. Hence the saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Well, if anyone would know about bed bugs, he would, Shay whispers. Downstairs in the kitchen, the fireplace is big enough to stand in. The lady tells us that girls don't go to school as much as boys. They typically stayed home to learn how to take care of the house. My mind bites into that, and I can't stop thinking about it. No more school. Ever. I lean over. Albert, do you think that time travel is possible? He whispers. Albert Einstein had extensive theories on its possibilities, and I certainly wouldn't argue with him. Me neither, I say. How do you think I would look in one of those dresses and bonnets? He looks puzzled. Finally, we go to the colonial schoolroom and join the rest of our class. A lady talks about what a visionary Noah Webster was to create the first American spellers and dictionaries. Before that, people used to just make up spellings. There was no right or wrong way to spell. Some visionary. The spelling stuff is all his fault, since he's the only one that got it in his head that we all need to spell the same way. I'm thinking Noah Webster was a scoundrel and that they should have put him in jail for this. The lady tells us to look at him. It took him 20 years to write the dictionary. That scared me. And he also wrote the first school books and grammar books. I think he must have been tipped off as rocker, as my grandpa used to say. Chapter 30, Miserable King. 2 days later, a lady named Miss Kessler pulls me out of class early in the day to give me some tests. Mr. Daniels is right. They're more like puzzles and games than those awful bubble tests we do, where I just fill in the circles without even reading the questions. She's really nice like Mr. Daniels. After school, Mr. Daniels is setting up a chessboard and pieces at the reading table. I walk over and he looks up. So, did your mom tell you that I called? Yeah, she didn't say much though. She usually has a lot to say about everything. He laughs. Moms usually do. He motions towards the chair. Have a seat. I pull out the chair, wondering what this is all about. Okay, he says, loosening his tie like we're going to do some serious work. Chess is a game about planning. It isn't like other games where you just capture the powerful piece. He points to a piece with a cross on the top. This is the king. The object of the game is to trap your opponent's king, but not actually capture it. When you put your piece in a place where it could take the other king, it's called check. When you give the other king absolutely nowhere to go, it's called checkmate. That's how you win. Normally I would be nervous and my mind would go blank, but he just has this relaxing way. His voice makes me calm. Maybe because I know he'll never say anything mean, call me lazy or dumb, and I know he wouldn't either. Got that so far? I nod. So then, are you going to capture my king? I hesitate. Did I mess up already? Didn't you say you don't capture it? That you would just make it miserable? He laughs. Yes, I did say that. Good, Allie. Good listening. So he goes through the rest of the pieces. The queen is the most powerful and can travel in a straight line in any direction. There are 8 pawns that, when you band them together, can be strong. Most players take them for granted, though. He tells me that's a mistake. The rook looks like castles and travel in forward and backward and side-to-side lines across the whole board. The bishops travel diagonally and in straight lines, and the knights can jump in an L shape. The king can only move one spot in any direction. It stinks to be the one with the target on your back and the only one who can't go anywhere. He's made up a sheet with pictures of the pieces and arrows to show how they move. He says it's in case I need a reminder. I turn it over, looking him square in the eye, and say, I don't need that. He smiles a little, but never takes his eyes off me, and he reaches down and moves one of his pawns. Good, then. When I start to make some dumb moves, he asks, Are you sure you want to do that? The first game ends fast, but on the second game I capture his queen, the most powerful piece on the board. I stand up so fast, my knees push the chair back and it falls over. I want to ask him if he'd let me do it, but I'm afraid of his answer. He holds up a hand to high-five me. Well done. And it's so weird. I don't have trouble with this game. I like it. I like planning what I will do to trap his pieces. He shows me how you can work it so you put your piece in a place where it can choose between taking two different pieces. Then your opponent has to choose which one to let go. That's called a fork. I love the look on his face when I manage one of those and take his bishop. Like it hurts a little, but he likes it too. The longer we play, the minute I can see it in my head. I love that I can see what the board will look like a couple moves from now. I learn to predict what he might do. I see a mind movie where the chess pieces come to life. They can travel around on the board all day by themselves, and they're happy and don't have to just stand there and wait for somebody to pick them up and move them. I know how relieved they are, being able to do something for themselves.